Josh, I want to talk about your early career in real estate.
Yes.
Can we do that?
Let's do it, man.
Give me kind of an overview if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm going to talk, let's go all the way back.
Okay.
Right? So what was your first job?
My first job, I worked at American Eagle.
Oh, that's not bad.
It wasn't great. It was in West Palm Beach, and it was in the mall affectionately called the Ghetto Mall.
Oh, boy. Okay. So not the best.
No, they'd had 3 shootings a year, and they bulldozed it a year after I left. So.
Whoa, that sounds... okay, mine was worse.
Yeah.
Right? So
What was it?
I unloaded boxes. There was a store called Venture, right? It's kind of like a Target, right?
Sure.
And so I unloaded like for whatever reason my mom's like, you got to get a summer job, blah, blah, blah. I'm like a sophomore in high school or something. So I get this job. I have this crappy little car. I'm driving it back and forth, right? And they're like, look, we're going to give you $5.25 an hour and you unload boxes. I'm like, cool, whatever, right? Then they're like, well, if you're interested, we could bump you to $5.75 an hour, but you got to work 4 a.m. till 9 a.m. That's your whole shift. And I was like, I'm in. That 50 cents, right? Talk about frugal. No, it's the worst math ever, right? But I was like, no, I'm totally in. Wow. So I start unloading boxes. And so my whole frame was like, let's get as much money per hour as we can, right?
Sure.
So quickly I hated manual labor. And I had heard about a girl in my high school, and she was a bank teller. And so there was a guy, a buddy of mine was like, I work construction, I make $10 an hour. I'm like, $10 an hour? But he's like humping like labor, and it's intense, right? Mm-hmm. I had no interest in that. So I find out this girl is a teller, and I'm like, I could sit in an air-conditioned building, hand out dollars to people, and make the same as the guy, So I was like, let's work smarter, not harder.
Right.
And so that's been the theme, right? The theme of my career. Now, fast forward through college, graduate high school, go to college, graduate, and I get a job in banking, right? And I didn't want to be in the investment banker route because they work them like 100 hours a week. And I was like, it's just not that hardworking, right?
Yeah.
But the commercial lenders, it's a pretty good life. You do okay. But I quickly realized I was never going to get rich doing that, right? I was going to meet a lot of rich people, and that was kind of fun. You're like, oh, this guy makes that. What does he do? And I started learning about real estate, and like I told you before, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, which ruined my life.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. And I quickly realized I got to get off this path, and I got to own a business. I can't work for anybody. And so I decided I was going to own businesses. And so from the age of about 25 on, I never worked for anybody ever again. I just owned businesses, most of them real estate based. But that banking background, it taught you a lot. Not people think like naively, like you're going to learn this magic, right, from banking. You learn a lot about accounting, which is important. And I learned a couple not tax loopholes, but for example, like if you own a building, like an apartment building, you can depreciate the building over 27 and a half years or 39 and a half years, whatever it is, depending on if it's a residential building or a commercial building. And that depreciation expense is a write-off. And so you don't pay tax on that portion of the income. And so I won't get into that, but the long story short is that I learned that these guys were kind of shielding themselves from income tax. And I was like, that's cool. But the nuance is in order to borrow money, you have to claim your income. Because what does every entrepreneur do? Tries to cheat the IRS. Well, I was like, let's not do that, right? Let's actually claim our income so I can borrow money. Because I saw borrowing money as like a better end game or long game than just like nickel and dime and Uncle Sam. I'm like, listen, I'm going to claim my income like an adult. I'm going to pay my taxes, and then I'm going to borrow a ton of money. So that's what we did. And it was very influential. People would be like, how do you get these huge lines of credit from banks? And I was like, well, I claim all my income, right?
Yeah.
I don't commit tax fraud, right? I actually pay my taxes. So that was really fundamental in getting me started.
Do you think that your banking background really helped you out?
Totally, right? Like it was so important. If I didn't have that background, I never would have learned some of the things that I learned along the way. Depreciation expense, how to do the accounting. I was basically running, they called them credit approval packages. Mm-hmm. So there was a stack of, you ever seen Office Space?
I have. It's been a few years, but it's a classic.
So remember what they did with Wendell?
No.
They stuck him in the basement of the bank.
Oh, that was Wendell?
That was Wendell.
Okay. I would remember a man being stuck in the basement of the bank. But
that was me.
Okay.
So imagine you go to school, get good grades, graduate, get the job you want, and they put you in the basement.
Yeah.
Right? Do you know what a basement is? You're a Florida boy.
I was going to say, we have water about a foot down,
foot under the earth.
So we don't have basement.
So a basement is like this creepy dungeon.
Okay.
So they put me in this creepy dungeon. I'm doing like these.
So they actually put you in the
I
basement.
swear to, not a joke.
Oh,
I swear
okay.
to you.
Okay.
Like they're like, look, we're out of space on the floor, and you're the like least senior person. You're the most junior person here. We got to put you. It's probably illegal now. Now I'm like, there's no windows. There's not a fire exit. Like totally illegal. Like,
Yeah.
They stuck me in the basement, like make me do long division all day long on these credit approval packages.
Just carbon monoxide and
Just total mold and lead-based paint.
Oh,
I'm just like, oh my, this is not safe. So I had to get out of there, right? The pain was like, get me out of here, right? You ever been in so much pain? You're like, oh, just anything but this, right?
No.
No, good.
Because we don't have basements.
Because you don't have
basements in Florida.
So don't work in a basement.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents. But that pain and the Rich Dad Poor Dad book made like making money seem so easy and so like, oh, this is gonna be a piece of cake. Little did I know, right? Like you've started businesses before, you know what goes into this. You've had friends who've done it.
Yep.
It's around the clock, like they say in Jerry Maguire. This is an up at dawn, pride swallowing siege that I will never fully explain to you, Rod. Right? That to me was like a big thing. So got through that, started nights and weekends fixing up little old houses. So this is what I did. I bought a junker house and fixed it up nights and weekends. And I made more money on that first house than I made working the entire year at the bank. And so I was like, sold. I'm like, Dad, I'm quitting. I'm done, right? And he's like, no, dude, you cannot quit your job. Yeah. He's like, you need that to, you're a banker now. You need that to get these loans. Yeah. So that was the precipice. So that really launched me. It was that first house. And like I said, I made a good chunk of money. It was more than I made at the bank. And I just rolled that into deal after deal after deal. And then, we watched one of the same guys on YouTube. You sent me a video of him. Okay. And he started, basically what he did was he bought a house, fixed it up, and refinanced it.
Was it Graham Stephen?
That's it.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he had no skin in the game, right? He had bought it, refinanced it, and then the tenant was paying the rent. That was the rich dad game. Like, so buy an asset, remodel it, or cash flow it or something, and then restructure the debt so you take tax-free money out.
And you played that game
terribly, right? Like it blew up in my face. That's why I'm not a big fan of debt.
Gotcha.
But mathematically on paper and in videos, it sounds really cool, right? Mm-hmm. But that's not a game it's not a game I'm going to play again. Yeah. But it's something that worked for a long time. When the market is appreciating forever, it works.
Sure.
The market, if there's a debt crisis, it's not so cool to be in that seat.
Yeah. Yeah. That was one of those times, though.
That was, nobody expected that, right?
I was going to say.
Isn't everybody an expert now? Like, oh, I totally saw the crash. I'm like, I didn't see the crash.
Hindsight's always 20/20.
Hindsight, right?
So in economics, they use the word utility, and I'm interested how you derive utility from your career.
Totally, right? So utility is like enjoyment, right? So how do I derive enjoyment from this? A couple of different things. One is there's no alarm clock for me, right? I don't have to be anywhere at any given time. There's a lot of people who make a lot more money. But I do it my way. And so there's some sort of joy in like having a culture in a company that fits you. Right. Yeah. And so I think like your organization, your church, sure. It's an extension of you, right? Like it's free and it's thoughtful, and I can ask you really hard theological questions and you don't call me a heretic and tell me I can't come back.
Well, not to your face.
Yeah, of course, behind my back, of course. Like, that dude's such a heretic, right?
Obviously not.
But no, so like being free to ask questions, the hard stuff in life, that's really important. And I think for Trend and what Trend is doing, that has been, really impactful and really important for my agents, because they want to come in, they want to ask questions, they want to have somebody who, gives a rip about them, right? Like most brokers are like, don't talk to me, right? And I like coaching people, right? Like it's something I enjoy doing. So it's been really I get utility from that. There's a little buzz from like helping a guy, taking a new agent who's never done this before and getting them to, they're making 50 grand, they're making 100 grand. You're going, I infected this person with some help along that path. Right. It's ultimately, of course, on them. It's their success. But if you can help them there, there's a ton of utility there.
Well, I've seen that even just in watching you talk to some of the people that you work with and seeing how you interact with them and how they interact with you. The fact that you've obviously taken the time and the energy to build something, like you said earlier, something that you would want to work for.
That's right.
And not just making the biggest company that you can just for the sake of making it as big as possible.
Oh, man.
But making something that does give you freedom and also gives that freedom to the people that are working with you.
There will always be bigger. And what we're trying to do is, like I say it all the time, do less better, right?
That's great.
There's bigger churches, right? But I would never leave this church because this is where my people are, you know, because it's done better.
Right.
Right. Like when I have like my parents have cancer and it's Sunday at 11 o'clock, I wouldn't do this regularly to you, but I can call you and cry on the phone.
Yeah.
And that's you doing your role better. Like there's bigger churches that maybe like would do whatever, but like when I can contact you and like have a breakdown and you're there, man, I mean, that's doing it better. Right.
Absolutely.
And so that you create that brand loyalty. Like I'm loyal to our church for those important, real reasons.
Right.
And I try to emulate that in my business.
No,
and so my business,
great.
when they call me at 9 o'clock at night, now granted, some days I fall asleep with my kids, right?
Sometimes you're just asleep at 9 o'clock at night.
Sometimes
you just can't do much about that.
I know you're not, but I am, right? I know like my old bud is definitely like,
no.
But you know, if they have an issue and it's 9 o'clock at night and I'm awake, I'm going to take the call or I'm going to call them back.
Right.
Right. So it matters. I think you just do the small things really, really well and the rest works itself out.
Yeah.
And so I've been really surprised. I thought we'd have a higher agent count by now. We don't have like tons of agents. We have like 35 to 40 agents. I thought it'd be 100 in year one. It's 35 or 40. But I'm shocked at how much they're closing. Like we had like almost 20 closings last month. We have another 20. I'm shocked at that. That's like staggering to me. Like this little group is doing some serious damage. So that's been really cool, right? And my goal is not to just have 1,000 agents. My goal is to have a culture and a business that is helpful and, like you say, a place where you'd probably want to go to Suncoast, right?
Yeah, and
I'd want to work at Trend.
That's key. I mean, if the organization that you're running, especially if you're running it, isn't someplace that you would want to work or want to be, I mean, what are you doing?
Right.
I mean, it's kind of the most obvious thing, but
it's got to be authentic. It's got to be real.
And you are, and the team of people that you have here seems to be the same. So, yeah, man. I have one last question. It's what is the prescription?
Okay. God, this is good, man.
Yeah.
So most gurus, I'm sure you and I have talked about this before, right? Like you see gurus and they got a shtick. Like I could name off 3 or 4 gurus and I could tell you their shtick. Like there's one guy who's very popular and it's just like grind, 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 grind. Well, listen, that's a prescription for some people. It's not one size fit all, right?
True.
And you probably see this in theology. You probably see this in your church, right? Some people need to work on like not sinning, and some people need to give themselves a break. Like you probably have both types of sicknesses.
Right.
And in business, it's the same way, right? There are some agents that I'm like, you've got to start working or you're never going to make it. Like you've got to make some phone calls. You got to start networking. You got to go to events. And there's other people I'm like, you're doing great. You need to take a break. So I think rather than having a one size fits all prescription for everybody, I try to take the time, learn the agent and say, you're here. We need to get you there. Let's do A, B, and C. You know, I call it design your day. Like come in and sit down. Let's design what a successful day is. If you can fall in love with that day, you will win.
Right.
If you can't fall in love with the day, you'll never win. Right. You can't win, right? Like if you get up every day, you podcast, you do this audio, you do this video, you talk about, you text me about crazy theological things, right? You let me mind expand with you.
Right.
And that's a good day, right? You have a raving fan in me. And everybody asks me like, oh, you go to church? Like, yeah, I go to church, but it's not like a church. It's like a really cool place where you could ask tough questions. You could have
it's a community of people that want to do better.
They want to do better, right? And I think one of the first times I saw you outside of church, you were on your motorcycle with a group of other guys on motorcycles. When I
had one before.
Yeah, when you had one, right? So you and a group of friends were on motorcycles, and I was outside of PDQ, and I rolled up. No, listen, this is hilarious. You probably don't remember this. I'm
remembering it now. That's why I'm saying, oh, geez.
So, and I rolled up on you, and I said something like, I was just joking, of course, and I was like, are you guys in a gang? And you looked at me like deadpan in the face, and you're like, no, we do good stuff. I died laughing. I was like, I know, dude, I go to your church. And you're like, oh, you had to be creeped out, though.
A little bit, but, you know.
You probably get that, though. You probably get
I get
people doing
things,
creepy things to you.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
You never know who it is yelling out the window.
Right? So, right? No, that was funny, though. Yeah. No, I appreciate you, the studio, the church, of course. Thank you for having this little business talk. It's been super fun. We're going to continue to do this. And, man,
Yeah.
As always.
It's been fantastic, man.
A pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you, buddy.